Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and this show is coming to you from Woodstock, New York, and it originates behind the community center in a public access television room in the back of the community center. And this show has been coming more or less regularly for almost 20 years. And we are now putting most of the shows on YouTube, which is turning out to be a real challenge, because how do you organize something that is moving forward in time and the people are continually changing? And I have found out that if you go to Thurman Greco, you'll get 3 or 4 Thurman Grecos, and then you'll get several dozen Thurman Greco wrestlers or boxers or something. And then you'll get Thurman Greco. It's just a whole, motley crew there of people. And so if you go to Let's Live, you will get interviews. And if you go to Take This Bread, you get a lot of focus on hunger. And so there's just many different ways that you can view this show on YouTube. So it's very confusing, which I thought would take everybody and push them all off. Mm-hmm. Well, it may be taking everybody and pushing them all off, but the whole world is watching.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So people have come up to me that have been recorded, such as, yourself. You can go, and if you're patient enough, you can find yourself. Oh. I found you a couple of times this afternoon. And then it'll show how many visitors you have.
Okay.
And I don't know, when people tell me that they have been viewed from Australia and whatever, I don't know how. I don't know that much about YouTube, so I don't know. So I'm hoping that you will try to find yourself.
I will.
And then try to find out where your viewers came from. Where did their interest originate? Mm-hmm. And if you think the people that are watching are people who know you or what, I just don't know. It's just turning out to be a real journey.
Huh, yeah.
Way beyond what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And I'm captivated by it. I just never thought. So anyway, we have a guest this evening, and she's been on this show. How many times? You've been on this show several times before.
A few times, yeah.
So explain to our guests who you are.
Okay, my name is Elise, and the West Hurley Library offered a Reiki class, and I was curious about Reiki. I didn't know much about it, and I went to this class in this really nice, very lovely little library, and I met you, and I learned Reiki, and it's been a fascinating journey. I learned right before COVID, and it really helped me get through COVID. It felt, because I felt like, because we're talking about the long distance Reiki, and through being able to do the long distance Reiki, when I couldn't see my family members or loved ones, I could at least send them Reiki, and it helped me to feel like I was doing something and staying connected with them during this crazy COVID time that we've been experiencing. So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful to you for teaching me the Reiki. I'm grateful to be able to do the long distance Reiki in this time of crisis. And I would just like for more people to know about it, and I just find it fascinating.
Well, Elise, I don't think that when people thank me, I really don't feel like I'm not seeking the compliment, and I don't necessarily even deserve the compliment, because Reiki is beyond us all,
Yes, but it takes someone like you.
But it's still...
Let's be honest, come on. It takes someone like you.
Anybody can teach Reiki.
But you do teach it.
That is true. That is true. We can all teach it, but then...
You do, and you put out the effort, and you want people to know about Reiki. People can teach it, but they don't necessarily put out the effort that you do. So.
And they don't necessarily want to. That's very true. Right. Not all of us are teachers. And it is very true that, and I took some classes in Virginia. I studied to be a Reiki master teacher under Mary Ruth Van Landingham in Vienna, Virginia. And because the DC metro area is huge, so she had, I don't know, there were 25 or 30 of us learning at one time. And there weren't, once they learned to teach Reiki, I never ran across any of them doing it. And so the question sometimes is why, and the answer is I don't know. Maybe their time has not come. Maybe once they learned what's involved in teaching Reiki, maybe they just gave up. I don't know. But I know that I really didn't make, I did teach Reiki, and I did create, I did make an effort to create 4 Reiki master teachers at the beginning of all of this, because I knew that times that were coming were going to be very challenging. And so I gathered together 4 people that I had taught Reiki to, that I felt like if I attuned them to be teachers, that maybe at some point they would. Mm-hmm. And so they have, each in their own way, been Reiki teachers. And I just really felt like this was a tool that we needed.
I agree.
And the question that I have for you is, as a Reiki practitioner, do you feel that we are coming to the end of this? Do you think we're halfway through? Do you think we're a tenth of the way through? Where are we on this path with this COVID?
I feel optimistic. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, but I'm also cautious. I have a son that's a scientist, and my daughter is in the medical field, so they're my guidance, kind of, with where we are, and they're optimistic, so which in turn makes me optimistic. But I'm uncertain. I'm uncertain, but I feel much better than I did a year ago.
Do you feel better than you did 6 months ago?
I do. Do you?
Yes, I do. I don't feel that we are, the way people are acting is that come July the 4th, we're all home free.
Yes.
And we're a long way from that. No. We are a long way. And I don't know, you have children in the medical field, maybe they would have an answer to this. I personally feel that, and one of the things that makes me feel this way is that I'm germ conscious. Mm-hmm. And of course, in the medical field, there's viruses and all these germs, and I just feel like our planet has been is toxic for so long that, this is like one, and what's coming up next.
Right. Exactly.
And we know that we have these iterations all over the place.
Right.
So you have to try to keep yourself as clean as you can. And that, I'm very encouraged by schools that are putting in air cleaning systems.
Yes.
And by offices that are doing that. My allergist paid thousands, and I know he doesn't own the building. He's renting his medical office, and he got himself in. He has a special air cleaning system. And so, and cleaning the water and cleaning, just keeping the trash out.
Right.
Is we are so long, and getting to getting rid of gasoline-powered engines and things like that. That's tough. You know, we got a
long way to go. We got a long way to go.
You know, and then because I'm not a research scientist, I speak as no one.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but what you say is true.
Yeah.
It is true, and we're not out of the woods yet, but we're better than we were.
Yeah,
we are better than we were, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that at least we can see people in person and interact, and was slowly coming back.
How did Reiki help you during the pandemic? How does it help you? Because it's still helping you.
Yeah, it is helping. Well, in a lot of, with the whole pandemic and everything, there was a lot of isolation, and people were afraid, and rightfully so. So I was, and when I used to wake up in the middle of the night, like worried about things, I would send Reiki to, if I would wake up and be thinking about somebody in particular, you know, I would send it to them, or I would name the whole group, do a whole group for certain, you know, first responders or medical people or anybody that was the scientists that are knee deep in this, and just send Reiki to them for, you know, to help them, you know, whether they want it or not, kind of, you know, that if it helped them, then they would get it. If they didn't want it, then that's fine too. So that's how it did help me. So now I have a regular Reiki routine, and I one day a week. I use my husband as a surrogate. Now that's what I want to ask you.
Okay.
Is it okay if I use him as a surrogate?
Of course.
And just that.
Of course.
But I feel like he's getting gypped, the poor guy.
No, he's not. I mean, you know, the Reiki's going. No, that's fine. I think that's really nice, and he doesn't complain.
Oh no, he don't complain. No, but I find we did it yesterday, and the funny thing is, the week before I did it, and I kind of sent everybody who I was sending it to, who I could send a text to, I'm sending you Reiki, and I said to him, okay, this one is for you, really, but you're kind of sending it to everybody else, and it was very, very powerful. It was like such a powerful session, and this week I didn't do that. I just said to him, okay, you're the surrogate. He said, does everybody know? I said, no, but it's coming, and it wasn't as powerful. So I feel like the guy, he's getting gypped, the poor guy, maybe.
Oh, he's not getting gypped.
Okay.
He's not getting gypped at all, and he's putting up with it. You know, I tried that on my spouse many years ago, because I've been doing this for forever, and you know, it's like, hey, I'm going to do this, and I get on the table and I'm going to do some Reiki, and this is you know, and I was just so excited. And so I got him on the table, and it was like you know, okay, we're going to send Reiki to, you know, to everybody in the world, blah, blah, blah. And I was going down, and it wasn't 15 minutes until he said, well, is it over yet? And I said, no. So then we went along another few minutes. Well, is it over yet?
Oh, that's
is
funny.
it over yet? And of course, I had worked on him for years when I was studying reflexology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he did not care one whit beyond anything besides reflexology. Forget it. If I'm not giving reflexology to his feet, it's not worth nothing.
Oh, that's funny.
So, I mean, at least your husband is
Oh,
cooperating.
he cooperates. I think we need to explain what long distance Reiki is,
Oh, okay.
because we know what it is, but if anybody's
That's a good observation. Yes, Reiki is not bound by time or space. Reiki doesn't care whether the person that you are trying to work with is here, or whether they're over at Yum Yum having a cup of tea, or whether they're in Paris. They really don't care. Or if they are, astronauts up there circling the moon in the new, in the cosmonauts or whatever that are up there for months at a time. They really don't care. It does not matter. And of course, when people get ready to give Reiki to someone, it's nice for me to have them. I like having something, I like a body there, and I like the person to breathe, and I like the person to feel things, because one of the things that happens when I give Reiki to people is that there's a lot of action going there. And for people who are visual, it's even wilder. But it's really not important. And I think it's very important that Reiki, the person can be on the other side of the planet. It's going to go straight through. So a lot of people who teach Reiki will say, okay, now if you're going to give Reiki to somebody, you need to take off your jewelry and have the person loosen their belts and all that stuff. No. Reiki doesn't care whether you have a belt. Reiki doesn't care whether you even own shoes. That's not the issue. The issue is that you call in the Reiki and the Reiki goes to work. And that's the important thing. Now, by having distance Reiki, you are offering Reiki to someone that you cannot see or hear. And in some cases, you're offering Reiki to someone you do not know. Have you done that yet?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you know when you were giving Reiki to that person that you had contacted that person?
I don't.
Okay.
I hope for the best. My intentions are good, and I hope that it served whatever that person needed. So, but I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Do you ever, when you send Reiki, do you ever say in your intention that this Reiki is for so-and-so, and if this person does not want it, I would like for the energy to go on to, and then you have another recipient?
I've done it where I didn't have another recipient in mind, but to whoever needs it, whoever is in need at this time, even if I don't know them.
How did that feel?
It felt good. Excuse me. I hoped it did what it was supposed. I'm assuming it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, I think, and this is, there's hundreds and thousands of books out there, so you're going to find other people who have different opinions. My personal opinion is that if you're going to give Reiki to someone and you do not send it on, in other words, if somebody comes to me, during the Iraq War, for example, I had a woman come to me, and she was a friend of mine, and she came to me one night, and she was very upset, and her son was in Iraq, and she wanted him to receive Reiki. So what I did to her was I started talking to her, and I said, okay, Maria, tell me something about your son. Well, he's in here, or he's there, or something else. And, she just started talking about him. And it wasn't 30 seconds until I could feel my hands light up. And when that happens, I have what I call a lock. I know that I have got his essence. And I began to send Reiki to him. But I also said in my intention that if he were to refuse the Reiki, that it would go on to the women and children of Iraq. So that without end, that's what I said.
So you should have a backup then?
But the thing is, if you have never experienced a no at Reiki, then maybe you should spend some time just doing Reiki to people. And eventually, the Reiki is going to come back to you. Eventually, something is going to happen, and you are going to know this doesn't feel like it always feels.
Okay.
And then you're going to know. You're going to have proof for yourself.
Okay.
But then for me, I continue that forever. Now, I have a question for you. When you give distance Reiki, how long is the session?
That was one of my questions to you. But so here's what we do. We set everything up, and I don't have a set time in mind. So sometimes when we're doing it, and you don't have a concept of time, you don't know whether you've been doing it 3 seconds or 45 minutes. So sometimes I'll be aware of the time when we start, and sometimes I won't be aware. I mean, I have to have a general idea, but sometimes it'll last like a half hour, and then other times it has lasted like almost an hour. But when I'm doing it, I can't tell whether I'm doing it. I mean, you have a start and a finish, but I don't know how long I've spent on each part, so I don't know.
Does that disturb you in any way?
No.
Okay. Because if it does, that's a fairly common thing. And I have had people explain to me that, when I do Reiki, I have no idea how much time is passing. Therefore, if I start off working on someone's head, could possibly be there 2 hours from now. Mm-hmm. And then so what I suggest to people is, if you can, get yourself a Reiki CD that has a timer on it.
I did try that, but I couldn't hear the bell.
Did you know that it had the bell? Maybe it didn't.
Okay, maybe it did. Good point.
Maybe it didn't.
Okay.
Because there are many. I'm selling dozens of them at Mowers Meadow this year because I just had so many, and I've been doing it for so long, and I didn't even wear them out. I just haven't used them. Because when I was really doing Reiki forever, all the time, because I was doing reflexology and other things as well, I had all of these CDs for the client. This group likes the chime, the chants, and this group likes whatever, and this, So I never really used anything that much, and now it's just like I've got the CDs coming out the window. So the ones that have a chime will say that they have a chime.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah, if you can't hear it, I think that it's because you didn't get the right time.
Maybe I did.
So
what do you feel would be an appropriate amount of time for a long distance Reiki?
I don't know. That really depends upon the person. Because once you start giving a distance Reiki, now if your husband is your surrogate, then you're going down the body. So
right,
you're going to have, he is a great structure for you. So you're going to go from the beginning to the end. That's fabulous. So that's good for you. But if you are doing this and the person is 17 hours away, mm-hmm. and you may, it's just hard. It's just hard. And also, if you sit there and you listen and you see and you touch, it could go for a couple of 3 hours.
No, I haven't. That hasn't happened yet. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time, but often, and I have never done Reiki. I'll tell you, it's going to depend, because it's going to depend upon the situation at the other end, and that's what you don't know.
Good point. Right.
And when you work on a person, when you offer Reiki to a person, your session is going to be from beginning to end. And it's got much more structure than this.
Well, during the class, you have us do the stuffed animals too, which is a structure,
Yes.
which is beneficial. So
Yes.
if you don't have a body,
Yes.
you can use
Yeah.
you can use
dolls.
Right.
You can use your leg, you can
Your
take
own.
your leg, you can go down the leg that way, from the hip to the knee. There are several things that you can do. And also, it's the same thing with working on animals. When you offer Reiki to, say, a German Shepherd or something, you're going to notice that it may just end. It may just end.
right the energy. Yeah.
And
Get
that means
restless.
it's over.
Yeah,
That means it's over.
they've had enough. Well, I notice with smaller children, and I've been around them, their time, I can get them to sit for a short time, but then, they start, and then it's over.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's okay, let's end it.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
And also, when you're working on children, when you're doing distance Reiki, quite often you're doing distance Reiki because a person has come to you and said, I really want you to send Reiki to my mother who is sick, or my brother who is sick, or whatever. The person who has requested the Reiki may need it more than the person who's going to receive it.
good point. I never thought of that, but you're right.
And so it may be that in 10 minutes it's going to finish.
Yeah.
You can also set up the Reiki so that when you say this Reiki, your intention is for this Reiki to last as long as it's needed.
Okay. I didn't think of that.
There's so many different things that you can
There's
do.
so much. And the whole space and time concept is amazing. Now, my husband was asking me about the connection between Reiki and, oh my God, he wanted me to ask you, and ESP.
There may be some kind of connection, but I don't know it. I will say this. I have attuned people who were psychic, and I have attuned people who were definitely not a psychic. I have attuned people who had no concept of any knowledge about the time and space and how it kind of moves around. And a lot of it depends upon the person.
Okay.
If a person's belief system is such that they can only accept certain things, then that's what they're going to work with.
Sure.
And sometimes when people are when you start doing distance work, you're going to do distance work on a person who's no longer on this plane.
Never thought of that.
And this is something that if you establish a daily practice of Reiki, that may be something that you do, that you send Reiki to your grandmother or to a pet that you had or to a plant or whatever, something that is no longer with us.
Interesting. Now, I know that Karen speaks of this, that you can go back if you know someone who had a traumatic childhood, you can go back to
that time,
that 12-year-old child during
Yes.
the time of trauma, and heal them. I find that fascinating.
Time is an amazing thing. When I had my oldest daughter, she was 2, maybe 2. And she went up to a person, and she was, a toddler. Well, actually, maybe she wasn't 2. Maybe she was 15 months or so. And she went up to this guy, and she said, and she was dancing, and just, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. So I didn't pay any attention to her at all. It was just nothing. Well, in 2 weeks, the guy was dead.
Oh,
so then I know, but I didn't even. Then it wasn't long until we did this again, and by then my relatives had picked up. They had heard enough. After about the third scene, and then we had. I had an aunt and an uncle who were very, very close to me and very close to, we lived in the same town, and they saw these children all the time. And she went up to him and she said, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. And he was dead. In about 5 days, he died. He just dropped dead. So then, people began to freak out. So we went through this for years. And Jeanette finally, through the College of Hard Knocks, learned that you just didn't dance up to people and tell them that they were dead. And you didn't dance up to people and tell them that their mommy was dead. You just didn't do it. But by the time she was an adolescent, she was freaking out from it. So by then we were in the DC metro area, and I knew I was in school, and one of my fellow students was an Episcopalian priest. So I went up to him and I said, I'm just going to everybody. By then I had been going, I would go to anybody that would stand and listen and tell them, how do I deal with this with my daughter? And he started talking to me about time. We have in our culture this linear concept, but not every culture does.
So how do they differ with their...
Well, in some other cultures, and I believe that this is true of some animals, they see their dreams in a different kind of reality than we see in our dreams. They have conversations with people that are no longer on this plane. They are visited by animals, so there is this concept of another plane.
Okay.
So finally, this Episcopalian priest called me up and he said, listen, I want you to take your daughter to a particular address. We lived in Virginia and of course DC, so it was about an hour away, but it was all through heavy traffic and stuff. He said, I want you to go, I want you to drop her off, and then I want you to come back to that corner and pick her up at 2:00. So we did. And I never knew where she went. But by then, Jeanette was probably 15 or 16. Mm-hmm. And she came back, and she had spent the day with a very well-known television star. Mm-hmm. And the woman had come down from the city to see her. And what she told her was, you have this talent, but so does everybody else. And if you're not interested in it, you can cut it off. And it took her about a year to cut it off. And I think that she still, but we don't, she is more comfortable not discussing it than ever, But it doesn't give you more talent than what your neighbors have. People, animal communicators. Have you ever spoken with an animal communicator? No. Well, the woods are thick with them. And when I first started with animal communication, it was in the 90s. And I came up here to Clinton, New York, which is over by, Utica. It's over by Utica. I spent the weekend, and then I went several times back. I went back several times, and finally I went and spent 10 days with at the time the mother of animal communicators. Like I said, nowadays all kinds of people do animal communication. We have these talents as children, as toddlers.
Okay.
But then, as we get to school, as we become more intimate with our neighbors and our family, and as we get connected to the outside world, these talents just kind of go away.
They diminish.
They lose importance. For many, these talents stay if there is some kind of a reason for them to stay with us. Animal communicators very often had rough childhoods. And so they were able to communicate with animals.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a survival's tool. So certainly, because a person is learning Reiki, ESP can be part of the tools. It can be part of the toolkit.
Yeah. But not necessarily.
It's not called for.
Right.
It's not part of. It's not a check mark.
Right.
But it can be.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that for some, it makes it harder. I attuned a woman. She was a practicing Catholic, a young woman, just amazing Reiki practitioner. But the problem that she had was that she saw a lot. And I began, after a while, to realize that she hid a lot and that she lied a lot. Because she didn't want, because if you're in a group and you have a Reiki class, and I don't ask so much anymore. I would ask people, well, now tell me what you saw. What did you see? How did this go? I would really, I don't ask that so much anymore. Because if you got too close to her, she shut down.
I noticed in our class when we had the group, some people were just so excited that they were just willing, to talk about it without being asked. They were just, but not everyone.
Right. And I have come to realize that the ones who did not speak, probably, now I don't know this because I don't know that. I'm not a psychic person, so I do not know. Maybe that person had something that was very profound and just did not want to share it. Because this young woman taught me so much, because when it was just her, and when it was just me, all this stuff would come out. But when you got her in a room with 6 or 8 different people, it didn't come out.
Yeah, she was quiet. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So
now, when you do a Reiki, now that was one of my questions. When you do a Reiki session on a person in front of you, you don't ask them what they felt? Or do you ask them if they want to discuss it? Or?
Sometimes I do.
Okay.
And it's certainly a wonderful thing to do. It's certainly a wonderful thing to do, if they're comfortable enough. If they are comfortable talking about, and also, I had somebody tell me one time, when you work on somebody, it's very quiet. And of course, this is why I like to add music. But she said, when you feel something, what about sharing it? well, you don't know this person.
Right.
And I don't want to go too deep.
And you
Too
don't want to
soon.
suggest something if they're
Right.
not.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're not comfortable with
Right,
it.
right.
So I just kind of let it go. And as long as you have music, the music covers a lot.
Right.
But once you start working with the person on a regular basis, after a while, I think it's important to say, you know, I felt a lot on your shoulder. I felt a lot at your elbow. I felt some tingling. I think that's okay. I just don't want to go too close, because I have found that they'll get in their car and drive away.
Well, they'll shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I went to my niece's house and did a session with her, and it was the first time we did it. No, it was the second time I did a session with her. So so I ended the session, and then I just quietly went downstairs. But my husband was downstairs, so the funny thing was I just kind of was very quiet about everything, and then she couldn't wait to talk to my husband about her experience. It was so funny because, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, I had this, I had that," but because they both had an experience together, So, but I didn't ask her how it went, but she did want to talk about it when she got downstairs, because I don't know if I should be asking how did it go, or.
I think I like to ask people how did it go, and if they're out and the time is up, then I'll touch their shoulder and kind of get them together. And you do want to talk. You do want to say something, because you want to bring them back into reality.
Okay. Well, she fell asleep.
Yeah.
She fell asleep, and I left. I left her because she's a nurse that works night shifts, 12-hour shifts.
Oh, yeah.
So when she fell asleep, she's got 2 young kids. I was like, let her sleep.
Yeah.
And then she came out of the room a few minutes later, and I was downstairs, and she goes, "Are we done yet?"
Are we done?
I went back up and finished her, but
and also, I think once you get comfortable with what you're doing, one of the things that will help you a lot is, now that the pandemic has moved along and we're beginning to get out, for you to work on other people. Just to work on a few people that you don't know may really help.
I have never worked on anyone I don't know. So
Right.
I would fail.
So just getting kind of out into the neighborhood will help you a lot. But what I try to do is tell the people, okay, now we're here for about an hour, and we're just going to start up here and we're going to end here, and then I just kind of let things go. And each person is different. If you start telling them an awful lot about, well, you're going to go to sleep or whatever, they'll all do it. And that's not necessarily what you want to have happen.
Okay. Now, suppose you have a session, and then the person says they didn't feel anything. So would you suggest that they come back or try a different...
That's perfectly normal. That is perfectly normal. The first time or two that a person receives Reiki, they are clueless. They don't know. It's a very delicate, subtle experience. Now, sometimes it's very dramatic, and they cannot tell you they did not feel anything. But sometimes they really don't know what they're feeling. And that's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal also for Reiki practitioners to not feel anything. I've had several Reiki practitioners that didn't feel anything for several months. And I had one that didn't feel anything, and it bothered her. And finally, she realized that she wasn't going to touch, that she wasn't going to feel anything by touch. What she was going to do is she was going to hear some messages, which was kind of unique. So she produces, her body produces an audio, really, is what it is. Because she tells them, you know, this headache that you have, maybe you need to check on it. Or maybe you need to try to get some more rest. Or maybe you need to, and that's her style.
Okay.
And I trained a woman to be a Reiki practitioner. She went on to become a Reiki master teacher, although I don't think that she finally ever really taught any Reiki. She did not feel one thing for 6 months. But she, for whatever reason, was driven to this. And she stuck with it. And then finally one day she did. And I don't know if I would have stuck with Reiki for 6 months if I didn't
If you
feel
didn't
anything.
feel anything, yes, I agree. Now, has anyone sent you long distance Reiki that you know of?
Actually, yes. Actually, yes. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Nice.
It was very relaxing. And I realized it was something because I knew it wasn't coming from me. And it was really great. So, yeah.
And did they tell you they had sent it to you?
Yes.
Or, okay, interesting.
Yes. And what I did was, the first time I received long distance Reiki, I knew that the person was going to send me Reiki about 5:30 in the afternoon. So I kind of got quiet, and I got in my chair, and I just kind of relaxed a little bit, and then I just began to feel really, really nice. So I loved it.
Good. Now, is it better to do it that way, to set up a date and a time that you're going to send?
I think it was for me.
Okay.
I think it was for me. But, you know, sometimes you can't do that.
Right.
Sometimes, like I had a woman come to me, and she said to me, the thing I want more than anything in the world right now is I want to send Reiki to my mother. And my mother is very sick, and I just don't feel comfortable telling her that she's going to receive Reiki. So I said, fine. And off we went. Grandma got Reiki. And the women whose children were in Iraq, their sons were in Iraq, they didn't ask. They didn't ask. You know, we just sent it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they felt.
Okay.
But I do know they felt something because I felt something.
Okay.
But I mean, nobody ever called me up and said, don't do that anymore. My child doesn't like this. I never heard that.
Now, with the distance Reiki, I have a grandson. My oldest grandson's going to college in September. I cried like a baby. He's going to South Carolina, and I'm thrilled for him. Can I send Reiki to his dorm room before he gets there?
Absolutely. I would send Reiki to the dorm room, to the dining room.
Okay.
I would send him Reiki.
I know I'll send
Every
it
week.
to him. But
Every week.
I want to Reiki his space. So do I need to know his dorm room number or what building he's in, or just
Do whatever you're comfortable doing.
Okay.
You know, whatever you're comfortable doing. But I'd Reiki the car. How's he getting down there?
He's going to drive, yeah.
Reiki the car, Reiki the building.
Yeah.
What classes is he taking?
Right.
Reiki the teachers. Reiki.
South Carolina.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that one. Just the whole place.
The whole place, okay.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Because the kids do, my other grandson is taking his SATs on June 6th, so he asked me to Reiki, just send him Reiki.
Absolutely.
his SATs.
And where is he taking that class? That test?
Right.
And Reiki that one, and Reiki, yeah, absolutely. This is a skill that, this kind of sets you apart from the other grandmothers that his friends have.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Doesn't make any difference. We have to take our talents where they lead us.
Right. No, they're open to it, I think. But
oh, I'm sure, and Reiki the girlfriend, Reiki everything. And these kids, I'm an old woman, and I can remember high school, going to classes, going to dates, going to dances, all this stuff, and they've been locked up.
Locked up.
And these are kids that probably, maybe, thought that they were social.
Yes.
They thought maybe they had friends.
Yes.
Now, who knows? After a year, who knows?
They have to start all over again.
And it's going to take, especially the grandson that's gone down to USC, he's going to have roommates that came from where and did what.
Right.
And they lived in whose basement, and their class was what. I mean, it's going to be weird.
It is going to be, yes.
Not that it's weird, but it's going to be weird to him because it's going to be so different.
So different. Yeah.
Oh man, what's the kid going to study?
He's got to do business and sports management or something. He's like sports or something.
Oh
sports,
gosh.
Yeah.
Well, he needs to learn Reiki too.
He's open to it. I should do that before he goes. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll put up with you. He'll put up with you. Granny says I have to learn Reiki. Well, okay. If that's what she says, I guess I better.
Well, he's got a 5-year-old sister. It's just the two of them. He's going to college and she's going to kindergarten.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the 5-year-old, when her mom hurt her back, I was doing Reiki on the back, and she instinctively just came over and started following my hands. And it's just like you said, everybody's got that capability.
Yes.
And when they're young, they're more open to doing it with you, and it was very sweet.
Oh yeah, the little ones. If you let her work with you for a while, I had a woman that I taught Reiki to, and this one, not Reiki. I taught her Reiki 1, 2, and 3, so she was a student, and everywhere this woman goes, she had this little kid, and the kid went everywhere. And finally, I told her after a while, I said, she's really good. And so in a year or two, she came back and she said, I think you're right. Can we give her an attunement? I said, sure, why not? She's doing it. She's been doing it. Kid was 5 years old.
Yeah.
She had no problem at all.
Nice.
And so if your 5-year-old granddaughter is laying hands on people, I can't think of anything better.
Right, and she's a big pet person.
I would be a whole lot more worried about her if you told me, well, she's then doing that than I would as if you told me, well, she's having a little trouble reading or having a little trouble with math. That will come. But this has found its time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
it's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you to learn Reiki or...
There are two things they can do. One is they can contact me, and people are contacting me. It's very interesting. It's like, I think being locked up has taught us all we need to do a few things. They can call me. They can contact Thurman Greco at gmail.com. They can go to the West Hurley Public Library and see if there's a list. I don't even know if there... this is a very touchy thing because I love that library so much. And my inclination is to say, go over there to the library and get on a list. But at the same time, I realize that if she keeps offering Reiki classes there, she's going to get a reputation, which is good.
Oh, okay.
But she's going down this, she's going down this trench, and maybe she ought to be offering I don't know, watercolor painting or something, you know, a variety of things. And so I don't know whether that's even what she wants to do. But certainly if somebody wants to come, then because I am more than willing to teach, and I don't care whether it's one person or a whole bunch.
Okay,
it doesn't matter, not at all.
So they know how to get in touch with you?
Yes. And I live in Woodstock, so I'm a neighbor. You know.
Yes.
And I'm certainly welcome too. So what else is on your list of questions,
my list,
my dear?
I have. Okay. Oh, is there a limit to the number of people if you're sending to a group? But
No, there's no limit.
no limit.
Reiki knows no limits.
And is it better for you to have something belonging? I'm talking long distance Reiki. Is it better for you to have a picture or something that?
Only if it helps you.
Okay.
It does not
It's not
matter at all.
necessary.
Reiki doesn't matter whether you have your picture or whatever.
Okay, and we talked about the surrogate. Okay, do you need to check? Should we check with the receiver? We discussed that. Okay. The prearranged time is better.
I think it is, but it doesn't have to be. You know, if somebody comes and knocks on your door, then, you know, that's what you work with.
And how far is too far? But there is no...
There is no too far. There is no too far.
Okay, so now this is like a COVID situation. If somebody comes to you and says, the family down the street could use Reiki, but you're not comfortable going into their home, you could sit in the backyard or on the porch.
Absolutely, it just becomes a distance Reiki thing. There's no problem. Absolutely not.
Okay. So
No, not at all.
that could work. Yes.
Listen, girl, I think we are running out of time. I saw some
wow, I'm
fingers coming up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
No, she held up her fingers. So this is a wonderful, wonderful program that we're having. And we are so happy to have Elise. And you can catch Elise on YouTube. It's still a little confusing right now. It's not very well organized, but there is more than one program, more than one TV show on YouTube. And I thank you very, very much. And I'm looking forward to more of these programs.
Yes.
I really am.
Yes, yes.
These are, I don't know what is taught in the Reiki books now. Are you reading any Reiki books at all?
I've been reading some stuff online. Yeah.
The things that you're reading, are they anywhere like what we're talking about?
They're like what we're talking about, but some of them are more about like no rings, no jewelry, no bells.
All of that. Everybody who teaches or practices Reiki has some kind of baggage or not kind of baggage. They all have religion. And I have no problem with religion at all. I think religion is wonderful. All kinds of religion are wonderful. But that's there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that is there.
Yeah.
And certainly if you are in this camp religiously, then you're going to have a certain attitude. And if you're over here, you're going to have another attitude. And it's just like whether or not you grew up with peers. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Right.
You're going to go at life different. I didn't have any brothers and sisters, so I have a different attitude. So that's where it is. I didn't mean to say anything negative about anyone's religion at all. We all need to develop our spiritual, emotional, and religious attitudes. It's very important in life. And thank you once again. And Elise, I'm hoping we can make another appointment this evening.
I hope so too. Yes.
I think we should do it again.
Yes.
And shall we, like the other time we had 2 models here, shall we try that again or shall we not?
How did you see those shows? How did that work?
Actually, I did see the show, but I didn't. It is up on YouTube, but I didn't get it clicked.
Okay, so review it and see how you feel like that worked.
I will do that. Yeah.
See what you feel is the best format.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think Karen's been watching them.
Well, we'll have to ask Karen too.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we could get Karen. It's not going to happen.
Not just yet. Maybe
Listen,
I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
No,
wrong.
that is very, very common. That is very common. Good night again, and thank you
Good night.
very, very much.